In this short episode of Ricky's Historical Tidbits, I will be sharing with you a little bit about a man known to history by a few different things, but mostly known as Judge Blanchard.
This is Ricky's Historical Tidbits Podcast, and this is Ricky Mortensen.
George Granville Blanchard is his name, a man who, like many in history, lived a great and important life, but has been lost and forgotten in the history books. One of the many reasons I created this show was to resurface and highlight the great men and women who made a difference, whether big or small. All too often, history is told about the big men, the big women, big ideas, and big wars. Not enough is told about the common man, the regular guy, people like you and me. Out of curiosity, I looked through the records. His great-great-grandpa, Samuel Blanchard, left England and arrived in Massachusetts in 1639. George, of course, was born in the United States. I couldn't find much about his early life, but he married a woman named Philinda, and the next year gave birth to George's first son, who was named George Adams Blanchard. Unfortunately, Philinda died in childbirth. After this, George moved south and then again west to Wisconsin before eventually making his way all the way across the country to California. George, who originally was a teacher, soon became a miner and then went to work at a lumber mill. Soon enough, he moved on to try his hand at the law. By 1859, George G. Blanchard was appointed to be part of the committee within the Eldorado Agricultural Society. And then, in 1867, George Blanchard was elected judge of El Dorado County. Fun little fact, his son, who stayed in New York when he went to California, eventually came to California, also worked as a lawyer and became a judge also, but over in Sacramento. Years later, after serving as a judge, he became the president of the El Dorado District Fair. I couldn't find too many specifics of what he accomplished in that role other than highlighting the beauty and the value of El Dorado County. Another notable thing about George G. Blanchard was his politics. I found many instances of him serving as a speaker or a delegate for the Republican Party. He was also a speaker at the funeral for James Marshall, which was the guy that discovered gold at Sutter's Mill in 1848. George is also partially responsible for bringing the wine industry to El Dorado County, serving as the district commissioner for the Board of Viticulture. He himself had a vineyard, and by the time he died in 1891, it was producing over 62 tons of wine grapes. In the blog version of this episode, there is a newspaper article that gives you an insight to one of the court cases Mr. Blanchard had to deal with. I think you'll enjoy it. Links in the description. George Blanchard is one of the miners featured in the Miners on Main scavenger hunt over in Placerville. That's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.
You've been listening to Ricky's Historical Tidbits Podcast. When you go to school and study history, they give you dates, they give you some names, and that's about it. But there's a lot more to California history, and that's where this show comes in. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show, and we hope you were entertained. And we'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us on Twitter and Instagram at busy_Ricky. Find us on Facebook at Ricky's Historical Tidbits. Till next time, this is Ricky's Historical Tidbits Podcast, signing off.